Conversations podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations Interpreting and Translating podcast. And it is that time of the year again where I have a chat to the AUSIT In Touch magazine editors about the latest issue. So today I'm super lucky to have Cristina Savin with me, who is in the In Touch editorial committee. And we are going to have a little bit of a chat with her about the most recent summer issue of the AUSIT In Touch magazine. Look, I usually do these chats with Hayley Armstrong, who's the chair of the editorial committee, but Hayley couldn't be with us today for this particular program. Cristina, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege.
Thank you so much. Thank you for agreeing to join me today. I was very lucky to briefly meet you in Brisbane in person, and we made our date for today. So thank you very much. I know how busy you must be coming into the Christmas period.
Yes. Yes, it was great to see so many people in Brisbane. Yes. And meet you, of course.
Oh, just a lovely atmosphere. We'll talk a little bit more about the conference soon. It's your first time with the Conversations podcast, so let's have a little bit of a chat about you. Who is Cristina Savin, and how did you end up here, Cristina? What's your story?
I came to Australia in January 2000. It's been a little while, and I've become a translator about nearly six years ago now. Before that, I worked mainly in Commonwealth government. So as I said, I became a translator about 6 years ago. And one of the things that I did while, doing my Master of Translation Studies was to join the Literary Review as an assistant editor and then associate editor. So I think that...
just for our listeners and viewers, what's Alitra?
Yes, of course. I always forget that I have to explain some of the acronyms. So it's the Association for Literary Translators, rather. And we publish, we have a peer-reviewed journal that publishes translation with commentary, articles, the more academic articles on translation, book reviews, and sometimes interviews. I've been doing this for the last 3 years. I'm just going into my fourth year soon. And I think this is what prompted the call to join the editorial committee here at, In Touch magazine. So I've been with In Touch only for a few months, so quite recently. And I've worked closely with Helen Sturgis and Hayley.
Yes.
Yes. So
including Hello, Hayley.
Yes, including on this particular issue.
That's wonderful. And you're a translator as well?
I am a translator. I'm not an interpreter. I'm a translator, and I work from French and Romanian into English.
Magnificent. French and Romanian. So I do have to say what a wonderful World Cup final it was, I guess, just a couple of nights ago now. Were you up watching the game?
Of course. I'm a bit of a tragic. I'm a huge football fan ever since I was a child.
There's nothing tragic about that. I am just as tragic as you, trust me.
The drama, there is always a lot of drama around that.
Oh, but you're so lucky. Like, you've got the French national team, I guess you go for, but you've got a Romanian background. You've got some greats of the game there, like Gheorghe Hagi, for example, who's one of my favorites.
He is.
Yeah.
I know. I remember the days when we were cheering, for the national team and all that.
Oh, yes. And then he played for Galatasaray, which is my team in Turkey, and it was the best time ever. Yeah.
He's great.
Anyway, look, we could talk for hours about, I think, football, but let's keep things a little more focused on our magazine today. Well, it's great. Your focus point is literary translations, and you bring that experience onto the In Touch editorial committee, which is great. I guess that explains the theme for this particular issue and the upcoming issue as well. So there's a special theme, is that right, for these two issues?
Yes, there is the literary translation, and this is part one, as the cover indicates. And there are a few articles that cover literary translation. In particular, one of them talks about the most recent issue, actually, of the Alitra Review, which is celebrating less translated languages. We've had a huge number of submissions, and we ended up with an issue that is almost 200-page long. It's a book,
wow.
Really. It's a book, and it was.
Is that being translated?
Oh no, not getting there. It was an incredible journey. We've had the most incredible submissions and languages and authors and reviewers. So it was fantastic to work.
How do we access this review?
So the Alitra Review is free to read. So on the Alitra website, the website is alitra.org.au. And there is on the menu, at the top, there is a special section dedicated to the Alitra Review. And all our, the current and the archived issues can be found there.
For our listeners and viewers, I'll put a link to the Alitra website in the description, and also a link to the review there as well, so you can just click along and have a bit of a read of that.
Yeah, there are also lots of links in the actual article, so that helps a bit for those who just want to dive directly into the article. But I would totally recommend looking at our Alitra Review and the Alitra website, because there are all sorts of interesting sections there, including members' translations and lots of other things, news, prizes, awards, and the like. But yes, so we aim to have all the links for individual contributions into this article in Touch magazine, so that people can easily access the ones that they find perhaps that they can relate to more, or they find different or interesting. So they are all there. So that's another avenue of accessing them.
That's wonderful. And what I love about the In Touch magazine is how interactive it is. It has so many links on there to all kinds of media, which brings me to the News in Brief, which is one of my favorite sections always in the In Touch magazine. What the News in Brief does is it gives you links to all the news about translating and interpreting related items that have appeared in the media since the previous In Touch issue. And, I can't believe that someone goes through the trouble of scouring through the World Wide Web, of finding any article that is translating, interpreting related, and puts a link to it. There's some pretty awesome links there. We were just talking about what a big football fan we are. And, there's even something there about Darwin Nunez, who was, I think, a Uruguayan football player, and how his translation troubles, and how players get to grips with a new language after his transfer to Liverpool in the UK. So, heaps of awesome news there about translating, interpreting. And some of them are videos, some of them are podcasts. Yeah. So, hours and hours of fun to be had just from that one page. So thank you to whoever Do you know who's compiling these?
I'm not sure, actually. That's a pretty good question.
Okay.
Maybe we
let's find that out.
We can celebrate that next time.
That's what I'm saying. So whoever you are, tell me who you are. So, we can just celebrate the amazing work that you do. And I'm sure that you have a lot of fun doing it too. Look, magnificent. We said that we're going to talk about just a few articles in this issue. We're not going to go through the entire magazine because, we don't want to give too much away. You have to read the entire magazine to get the full experience. So we'll just have a chat about some of the articles. And one of the ones that really stood out for me was the haiku article. And, I knew a little bit about what it was, but after reading the article, I really want to give it a go as well. And, tell us a little bit about that. I think that started off as a competition.
Yes, it did indeed. And I do remember the day the email came around inviting people to, try their, chance, have a think about writing the haiku. And I remember looking at it and thinking, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. And then...
Did you try?
No. I thought, do I need training in haiku first? Or I don't know. I was a bit... yeah. But I've read haiku in my life. I remember in high school, that was when I was studying literature. That's one of the genres, that stood out. And I remember having a couple of classes on that alone, just to introduce us kids, students to this wonderful.
Very briefly, can you tell us what a haiku is and where it's from?
Yes, so it originates in Japan, as I'm sure many people know, and it is the shortest form of poetry. And there is a very particular way of doing it, and it's comprised of 3 unrhymed lines of 5, 7, and 5 syllables. So it seems to be quite precise. So I think that's something that some people can do very well. Clearly, from reading some of the selected haikus that are in the article, and I relate to many of them myself.
Definitely. Look, it sounds easy, doesn't it? Just 3 lines.
I don't think that's that.
I gave it a go, and I am not the best at haikus, to be honest with you. So we'll read we'll read the winning top 3, I think, or the top 3 in the competition. So the idea came from the AUSIT Victorian branch PD coordinator Eppley Zhang, and she suggested to run a haiku competition. And there was about 40 applications or 40 entrants. One of the judges was Rob Scott, president of the Australian Haiku Society. So, we're talking about pretty high-end stuff here.
Quite the expert, I'm assuming. Yes. Yes.
Oh, well, you'd have to be when you're a president of the Australian Haiku Society. So, these haikus that were sent in they were judged by the best in the country. Also, on the panel was Jean de Clark from the Victorian Branch Committee of AUSIT, and also David Shield, who's an AUSIT member as well. And they had 40 entrants and some pretty good haikus there. I just want to read, maybe I'll start with the winner. The winning haiku came from Nilu Kaur from the New South Wales branch, and it goes like this. Finally summer. Sounds of cicadas, chirp, tap. Fingers on keyboard. So much with so little words, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you relate to that as a translator?
Yes. I just think that it is a lovely mix of, it's very visual as well. You can almost smell the summer, that warmth. And at the same time, I think the sounds are also very well represented, just to sort of put them in the middle there on the second verse, second line rather. I think it's very clever. And yes, I do definitely relate to that. I think it's a lovely blend of what a translator, feels, I think, in their everyday work.
I definitely relate to the first line, being in Melbourne, finally summer. We're coming into Christmas and we actually just finally started getting a little bit of warm weather. It's been a very long winter for us. So definitely can relate to that. The runner-up there, I think I also find very, very relatable because I think it covers all practitioners, not just translators. And that one is from Yoko Knotts, again from New South Wales branch. Looks like New South Wales is pretty good at haiku writing. And it goes like this. On my mobile phone, awaiting the next client in utter silence. Again, just says so many things for an Australian practitioner, doesn't it? Just
That's right.
Waiting constantly with that phone in your hand. When's the next job coming? It really touches quite a soft note for me as well.
Yes. I think they all have at least one aspect that rings true, I think, for all of us, with all of us, both in translation and interpreting. Yes, it's very hard to. I read them all. I find it even more rewarding to read them out loud, not just on paper, just sort of
definitely
in my head, just to say them out loud. I just think it makes a big difference. Yes, I really enjoyed every single one of them.
I love it. I think, look, these can be turned into fridge magnets. I think they can be turned into bumper stickers. They're so good. I just love to see them everywhere. So, maybe that's a Christmas present idea. Get some of these printed for some of your friends. Yeah. Look, I want to say a big thanks to Eppley, whose suggestion it was to get this competition going. And, hopefully it turns into a regular thing. Now, look, like we said, I caught up with you at the AUSIT National Conference, and Helen, who is also on the editorial committee, introduced us through email and said, look, you're both going to be there. Make sure you meet each other. And you found me. I think I was at the AUSIT annual general meeting table. You came and you found me. And, we met there. What an amazing conference it was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was incredible, really. This is the second time I attend face-to-face. The first one was in Canberra a few years back. And, yes, this was absolutely amazing. And I had the privilege to also report on some of the sessions. So, yes, meeting so many people, talking about so many, adventures as professionals, as practitioners. Yes, it was incredible. And I think everyone was so happy to finally, again, be back face to face. I think that was probably the big winner of the conference.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And look, I've been to a couple of online ones before, and this was my first ever in-person one. And I've heard it from a lot of people. They were saying that, and a lot of people who've been to many conferences before, saying that this was the best one that they've been to. Look, I don't know if it was the fact that we were all so away from each other, away from people for so long, and then coming back together again. Maybe that had something to do with it, but I thought it was such a well-organised conference. So I just want a big round of applause to the Brisbane committee, the organising committee. They have just set the standard, I think, so high. And Sydney's doing next year's, so they've got a lot to look up to in their hands there. So the bar has been set very high, Sydney, and I'm sure you're going to do an amazing job as well. But yeah, kudos to the Brisbane committee. And also, I just want to say kudos to Brisbane City as well. I loved it. I'd never been to Brisbane before. And it was particularly cold again in Melbourne leading up to it. And it was just so good to get away for a few days and soak in the sun, see all you wonderful people there. And I think we just had so much to say to each other, didn't we?
Yes.
Always all these little conversations going around. Having said that, though, there was also some really, really good presentations. It was a very busy program. I loved it. You know, I was running from one to the other. They were very well, I think, situated and placed. They weren't too far away from each other, but still gave you enough time to walk between the presentations and reset, you know, not like going from one room into the other. I like that. So, you know, what were some of the presentations that stood out for you?
Yes, well, I'd like to take this opportunity and personally say a really big thank you to the organizers, because I know there are hours and hours of work behind this, and yeah, it was an amazing effort with amazing results. I did just that. I just went from one place to the other, one building to the next, and they were very lovely, sort of situated almost like a triangle, I think. So it was nice to walk around, get a bit of sun, a bit of, you know, vitamin D in the process. And
definitely
lots of them. It's very hard to choose, but I will. So I was very busy going to as many as I could. Some were, of course, ran in parallel, so it was not possible to be, you know, to attend all of them. But there are a few. One that stood out, of course, was Sam Berner's session, Ethics for a Different Time. And I think that,
so good.
Ethics is
I have to agree with you.
I'm very passionate.
That was one of my picks as well. Yeah.
Yes. So I think, yes, I think there's a lot to be said about that discussion. I don't even want to call it a presentation. It was such an engaging session. It was very empowering as well.
So thought-provoking, you know. I'm still thinking, why am I translating? Which ones? What should I be translating?
Yes.
What do I say no to? What do I say yes to? What are my responsibilities to society, to my community? Oh my God, so many questions. And you think you're asking these questions to yourself, but I mean, especially, I can only talk for myself, but usually the first question you're asking is how much is it paying? You know, and that was what she was saying. That there are so many other questions that should come along before accepting an assignment. So for me, it was an eye-opener. It was thought-provoking, and just the way she just delivered. I got to say, I met Sam for the first time in person, and I couldn't stop hugging her every time I saw her. I was like, I have to give you another hug.
I do the same.
And it was just so, we're so lucky to have her in Australia, and I can't wait to see her again. Sam, if you're watching this, thank you. You have awoken something within me, and I'm pretty sure you have done that with many other translators too. So thank you always for fighting the good fight. So yeah, that was definitely up there for me. What else stood out for you?
There was the very practical, I found, talk on how community engagement and research empower translation that was delivered by Isa Her from Load, from the Load company. I also enjoyed the session that four people representing Aboriginal Interpreting WA delivered. Yes, I have a bit of a different interest as well. I worked for a number of years in what is now called Indigenous Affairs, if you like, or whatever name they have. They may have, depending on the government, I guess. So I do have a bit of an understanding of, some indigenous issues, particularly related to employment, education, and workforce participation. And I was personally very touched by that presentation. It was truly from the heart.
It was great to see the Indigenous interpreters there as well, talking about their experiences. Their
experiences, yes, very personal, very, the real, what the real life is when you interpret for the communities, and you make that connection with the government, in their case with the Western Australian government, also servicing so many language groups, which cannot be easy. I don't think that's easy. So that was quite an eye-opener. And I also had, after the session, I had a lovely conversation with Gail Yorkshire. So I just got to understand a little bit more about what their work entails and how they connect with the community and make a huge difference. Their work makes a huge difference.
Magnificent. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be there for that too. So thank you for the presenters on the day. What else? Anything else that stood out for you?
Yeah, there was the Jill Blewett Memorial Lecture also on Saturday morning that was delivered by Dr. Lucas De Toca, PSM. So again, it was a very practical discussion around servicing communities, culture, and
he's a great speaker as well, I think.
He's a great speaker, yes.
Magnificent. I've seen him at some other presentations too. It's just, he knows a lot, and he can actually really, put it into words, and it's very engaging.
Yes, I remember taking lots of notes. I have pages of notes.
There's a lot he says a lot in quite a short amount of time, doesn't he?
Exactly, yes. He's a great speaker. And it was very inspiring. And I was thinking that with many of these, well, all of them, but, the sessions that we had, I know that they would help practitioners that are sort of new to the profession, I think, to get a really good understanding of what is happening on the ground. I think it's a really good introductory, if you like, opportunity for them to understand so many perspectives and to understand all those realities as well. So I really think that's a big plus of the conference as well. There were quite a few sessions around technology, and I think those were really useful as well. It's as I said, it's very hard to choose one, and I wouldn't want to appear that the others were not.
No, look, we're not saying there's a winner or a loser here. They were all amazing, and first of all, we couldn't get to all of them.
Yes. What were yours? What were your most favorite ones?
Look, definitely Sam Burner is up there. This is in no particular order, but I got to say Sam's tops it all. Adolfo Gentile's presentation was, again, an eye-opener for me, especially for someone who's new into the industry, compared to, I guess, some of our more experienced trainers and interpreters and translators. And he kind of gave us a rundown of what was happening in Australia in the TNI space for the last 40 years. And he spoke very openly about, the good things that are being done, some things that could be done better, and some things that are just not being done at all, perhaps. Again, he was very honest. And I think only Adolfo could get away with the things that he was saying because true. he just says it in such a way that you're like, I agree. His presentation I thought was, again, spot on. I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you, Adolfo. What are some of the panels I enjoyed a lot as well? There was one there, again, I think with Lexico, Mark Saba, and some other, I think Connecting Now, perhaps. Some of the leading LSPs they talked about technology and how it could be embraced. That was a good panel. Another good panel was, again, there was the all-graduate CEO, Macquarie University, head of translating and interpreting, Mark Orlando. Ismail was there, as well as Tia Dietrich was there, and they spoke also. I really enjoyed that panel too. They all came at it from very, very different points of view, and it was about growth. And they all had different views, and I really enjoyed how passionate they are about what they do within our industry. And, kudos goes out to Mike Orlando as well, and how his approach was, we need to talk about translating and interpreting access as an accessibility issue. It's not a language issue, it's an accessibility issue. And when we get the governments to accept this fact, it's a disability, not understanding something that is said to you or written to for you is not understanding it is a disability. It's an accessibility issue. And when we get governments to understand this, there's going to be a massive growth potentially in our industry. So I really like where he was coming from, and he was saying that we will all have to come together to achieve this. So, Mark, thanks for your input. What else? I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed all the tea breaks and the lunches. Yep, they were definitely delicious. I enjoyed the venue. So big kudos goes out to University of Queensland as well. I thought the venue, it was just wonderful, beautiful little venue. When I say little, I think it's like half a city in most countries. It was massive. I also want to say a big thank you, because at the national AGM, which was held in person there was the change of the baton of the AUSIT president, going from the ever so wonderful Dr. Erika Gonzalez to Angela Barbetto. And I really enjoyed Erika's speech there as outgoing president, and how emotional she got, and I've got a lot to thank her for, because if I'm standing here today or sitting, she's got a lot to do with it. So just want to say a big thank you to Erika as well for the last 3 years for the services that she has provided for our industry as AUSIT National President. And a big thank you and good luck to Angelo as our new president. And I know he's got some great ideas, and, good luck to him, and hopefully we can all assist him in everything that he wants to do for our industry. In the magazine, there is Erica's got a citation there, so I highly recommend everyone read that. And she was given the Paul Sinclair Excellence Award for outstanding contribution to AUSIT in 2022.
Yes, indeed, yes, and it is true. Just reading the citation, if for those people who don't know much about her incredible dedication and commitment and success over the last few years while she was the president, just reading that, it's amazing how much she was able to do, and just raising the awareness of the profession in general, but lots of other things. I don't think they can capture everything. The citation can capture everything.
She does so much, though. I don't know how she does it. She does so much. It's like, I swear, there's like, she's cloned herself. There must be 3-4 versions of her, because there's no way one person can do all that.
I'm pretty sure there must be some.
Yeah, there's something going on there. She's got like
impossible.
Some kind of cloning, body doubles going on, and to do it all with so much passion and such a big smile as well. So Erika, we'll miss you, but I'm pretty sure we'll see you around. Yeah. One thing that kind of stood out for me was the translation masterclass article. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I was actually part of it myself. When Evelyn started it all, because I translate from French into English, I was obviously, on the, mailing list there, and it came through the email, one of our groups there, and French translators. And I thought, wow, this is an incredible idea. I can't even believe this is happening. And I attended. Evelyn organized 4. Then there was I think there was a family situation, and she had to go to France. But I attended the first one, and I believe the second one. And so this was a great idea. I think it's a great idea of working together, translators working together in a collective, fashion, just to, translate and share ideas, share experiences, and have it was actually a lot of fun because the texts, to do it
in language, right?
So Evelyn organized this from French into English and English into French, for those who translate in that direction, of course. And then it was picked up by, I understand, it was picked up by other translators who work with other language pairs. So the article discusses this opportunity that, this masterclass inspired Angelo Berbotto to do the same. So, and I think it can be extended really to any language pair. And it's a great, the fact that it's a professional development opportunity is great. So we did. It was lovely to do the translation when the text came around, and I did it, and I put my translation there, and it was a very friendly, very engaging atmosphere at the masterclass, and I don't know where the 2 hours went. I could stay there forever. I could have stayed there forever just to talk about nuances and words and, all sorts of things, but also to be with other translators. So for me, that was, a great opportunity.
I mean, translators are usually, in a room or an office somewhere by themselves, quite a solitary profession. So it must have been amazing for everyone to come together and share their experiences.
That's right. Yes, and this is exactly what it was. And it started in 2020, so it was quite in the first year of the pandemic. So I think it helped a lot. It helped me, and it was just a great opportunity to, going through that. The pandemic was something that we all experienced, but coming together like that and feeling it was such an inclusive, masterclass. You could, if you didn't want to say anything, you could just sit back and listen and take it all in. Or if you wanted to participate, contribute, there was no pressure of any kind. It was very relaxed, very engaging. So yes, I went back and I'm hoping that we will do more in the future.
Well, from what I've read, it was very, very successful and everyone wants to see it happen again.
That's right.
And let's hope that it's available in more languages too, because one of the things that stand out here is the fact that it is in language, it's language specific, and you don't get a lot of translation focused PD that is language specific. So, again, thanks and kudos to the organisers, Evelyn and Angelo, and hopefully there will be more of these workshops and in other languages as well, hopefully. So we'll say maybe keep an eye out for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like that in the article they actually provide a very practical example. So there is the translation brief there. So it's for those who, have Spanish, they can actually see what the class or a section of a portion of what the class, the masterclass entails. So I think that's a good way to, to go about it, just to explain really what it was about. And I really also like the fact that it's a great learning opportunity for newly certified practitioners and also for students.
There's definitely a lot of good things to be taken out of this article, so please give it a good read. And, how it was delivered and the strategies that were used to deliver this masterclass, this workshop, I thought was very, very clever. It's not easy to run something like this in language, and especially when you've got maybe, up to 20 people in a workshop. How do you deal with that and spend enough time with everyone? I don't want to give... I read it and I was like, oh, I've got a lot of great training ideas from this article alone. It's definitely worth the read. So again, thanks to Evelyn and Angelo Barbotto, and looking forward to more of these in the new year and beyond. All right, so that's another great one. What's another one that, here we go. Now, this is when AUSIT In Touch goes international, right? So there's a really good article here that focuses on translating informed consent in maternity care. And this is one that was, it's a report on research that was conducted by the University of Edinburgh and Edinburgh Napier University as well. And the researchers were Dr. Shebnam Susam Sarayeva and Dr. Jenny Patterson. Tell us a little bit about this very, very interesting findings in this particular research.
Indeed. I read it with a lot of interest myself because I just think that I'm a strong believer in, any translation that is supported by research. I have a bit of a research background myself, so I really enjoy reading about research, doing research as well, but reading about it. And I think this particular project so by the way, the article contains some really useful links. So I looked at the links that are provided in the article, the hyperlinks there, and one that I found particularly interesting was the practice-based events with midwives and student midwives. So this whole research, this project examined informed consent during pregnancy, labor, and birth in parents with a limited English proficiency. So this was the purpose of this research. So the researchers worked with expert focus groups and interactive workshops where they invited researchers and practitioners in both disciplines to take part. One of the links that I found really useful is called Translating Informed Consent in Scottish Maternity Services, Practice-Based Events. So there are 3 uploaded, one on YouTube, there is a podcast, and also there is another one on the website of the Maternity and Midwifery Hour. So I would encourage everyone to have a look, have a read, but have a listen as well of what the findings were. And of course, as any solid, sound research project, it has a number of recommendations that emphasize continuity of care, quality training and regulation of interpreters, and improved access to and resources for antenatal education for parents with limited English proficiency. So overall, I think I really like this intersection between research and the practical side of things, where practitioners, but also the community, can use that kind of information and make the most of it in their work.
I agree with you there. I think research like this is very important, where everyone that is affected by these things actually come together and input into the research. It says here, the researchers organised a series of expert focus groups and interactive workshops inviting researchers and practitioners in both disciplines to take part. So both midwives and interpreters, they're taking part. And I think, that kind of co-design just really, really helps make access to these services much better and of higher quality as well. It also points out here some of the findings were issues around quality of interpreting, such as the varied medical knowledge of the interpreters and differences in nuance. I just want to point out here that interpreters and translators, it's not just about language skills. We really, really need to know in the topics, in the context that we are interpreting and translating in. It's not just a matter of, finding a dictionary on the spot or knowing certain words and using our language skills. We have to know about that particular field quite a lot, don't we? It's not just knowing a thing or two or a few words or, memorizing a glossary of terms. It's not. We really need to know and understand the topic.
That is true. Yes. And I think that's why it's, this kind of research is so useful. It touches so many aspects of the profession. Yes.
100%. And like you said, lots of links there. Again, I really enjoy the interactivity of this magazine. You can access podcasts, some YouTube videos there, as well as the entire the report as well, and its recommendations. So again, thank you for the editorial team for finding something that is very, very relatable all the way across the other side of the world. I think the UK is quite similar when it comes to perhaps culture and its migration policies. And I think there's a lot that they can learn from us and we can learn from them. There's a little report here that is prepared by Helen Sturgis, and it talks about a research project that was led by Professor Jan-Louis Kruger of Macquarie University. And this is a joint project that was that had Macquarie University and all graduates interpreting and translating working on this research project. What did you think about the research project? Let me ask you first, and then you can ask me your questions, because I had a little bit to do with the research as well, being working at all graduates.
I think this is another fantastic example of theory and practice coming together. So there are certain aspects of the profession that are highlighted in this project. Again, this has a link, the final report of the study. There is a link there, and I had a look at it myself, and I found it as a very, very interesting read. So it looks at as the title suggests, the text complexity and its impact on the quality of translations in Australia. And again, there is a lot of research out there in cognitive and eye movement and all sorts of other related aspects. And I really like the way the way Macquarie University partner up with all graduates, translating and interpreting and translating, to conduct this kind of research, because it helps both the research community and the practitioners. They sort of inform each other quite well. There are a couple of things that I'm very curious about, and one is the languages, the choice of languages. It says here, translators from English into 6 languages, and they are Arabic, Hakka, Chin, Chinese, Spanish, Swahili, and Vietnamese. Now, they were asked to translate 3 texts each at 3 different readability levels. So they were difficult, moderate, and easy. I would like to hear a little bit more about the why these 6 languages?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about that. So what happens sometimes is, as you and everyone out there would appreciate, sometimes governments want these really complex documents translated. And, you know, kudos to them. They want everyone to access the documents and be informed, but they don't really know a lot about the translation process and how it works. You know, they might just give a really complex text to you and say, oh, I want this translated in 30 languages by next week, or in 24 hours, in 48 hours. You know, we saw a lot of this during COVID. There was a lot of documents being translated almost overnight into many, many languages. And we said, look, some of these documents are very complex. You want them translated in all these multiple languages. Some of these languages have a lot of really highly certified translators in those languages, and some of them actually don't have many highly certified translators in that language. You know, some of the languages are established, like we say in our industry, and some of them are new and emerging. So there's different levels of translator education and certification. That's why we wanted to choose languages that were established, like Arabic and Chinese and Spanish, and then some languages that were new and emerging, like Hakachin and Swahili, perhaps. And for us, because we have only access to the translators that we work with and that they wanted to be involved in this research project, and we had to have 3 translators, and we had to have an overall a proofreader, an independent checker to give feedback on those translations. You know, it wasn't easy to find the translators in so many languages that had that many practitioners who wanted to be involved in this project. So I would love to see this project grow into many, many other languages, because all languages have their own nuances. And the way that Macquarie University conducted this was just really, really spot on. Apart from organising the translators, we didn't have anything to do with it. It was 100% Macquarie University conducting the research. We just talked about the idea together and provided the translators, and we had no other involvement. And, you know, everything from cognitive load to eye movement. And what happened was, at the end, you know, we thought this was going to happen, but now we have some empirical evidence. Texts that are not complex end up with better translations and less cognitive load on the translator. Surprise, surprise. Okay. So institutions or government organizations or any organization out there that want their documents translated, you know, you have to look at your readability. You have to look at the number of translators and the level of translators that are available in the languages that you're requesting. You know, some languages could be done overnight in more established languages with a greater number of translators, but maybe some other languages might need a few extra days because you don't have access to that number of translators and that level of certification. So we thought that it was a really, really great research project, and it was a privilege to be a part of it with Macquarie University. And, you know, like we can see, less complex text results in higher quality translation, and less cognitive load on the translator means that you can probably get more translations out of your translator quicker if the text isn't as complex or if the text is simplified. So, you know, the whole goal is to hopefully, I know it's the long game that we're playing, but wouldn't it be great if the project was a larger project with a whole bunch of other LSPs, and we all kind of led the industry together in talking to organizations, institutions wanting their translations to provide less complex, more simplified texts that are not only going to be understood better by the English readers.
That's true.
To be honest with you, some of those texts that we've seen, even English native speakers will have difficulty understanding. It's just going to be much better, not just for your English readers, but also if you want these things translated, and especially in so many languages in such quick amount of time, it really needs to be considered. And I think if we can all advocate for this as all LSPs and, universities and practitioners, I think it's just going to be really good for the end user, for the reader, of course, most importantly, as well as the practitioners and also these commissioning institutions, organizations. It's just going to make it more effective and efficient for them.
Yes, indeed. Plain language is the answer, isn't it?
Plain language. I know that there's like this whole thing about, we're going to do plain language. I don't know if everyone's doing it, though. There's a lot of talk about plain language, especially within the legal sector, Yes. I think there's still a long way to go. Some of them are doing it better than others, I guess. Some of them are more aware of it than others. But I think, it's just going to be the long game, the long game that we'll all be hopefully making better.
Yeah, and that's why this kind of research, raises awareness and makes such a great contribution.
I think so too. Again, there's a link there that people can click on and read the entire the report on the research. And again, thanks and a big kudos to Jan-Louis Kruger from Macquarie University and also Macquarie University Translating Interpreting Department as well, including Associate Professor Mark Orlando there. Thank you for his support as well. Thank you very much. I usually ask the questions, but you asked the questions this time around. And I was very, very happy to hopefully give some good answers to your question there. Look, there's a whole bunch of other wonderful bits and pieces in the magazine. There's one of my favorite sections is also there's a focus on two practitioners always. And, without giving too much away, I just loved seeing David Deck there.
Yes, indeed.
to put what he's done in the industry in a couple of paragraphs is, I think, a big effort. So well done, whoever did that. That's got to be taking some real editing skills to be able to
get to the
all he's done.
Exactly.
So, look, David, hello to you. I'm just really looking forward to maybe one day there'll be a special issue just on him. Even that might not be enough.
Indeed.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to speak about regarding this particular issue? I think this special issue is in two parts about literary translation. And is there a call for interest for articles? What can our practitioners do?
Yes, so we very much encourage practitioners to make submissions. There are the submission guidelines available on the website, and on page 2 of this issue, there is a big, you can see it. Do you have a passion for literary translation? So we are seeking ideas and contributions, and all you need to do is to take a look at the guidelines. If you have any questions, we very much encourage people to email the editors, the editorial committee. All the names and emails are there, so anyone can be contacted. And just, have a go, because there is a lot out there. I know that there are many translators who do great work in the literary space, and I think they need to be celebrated.
They're like the quiet heroes, aren't they? We never see them, we never hear about them, but they do so much work.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so like you said, take a look at the submission guidelines. If you have any questions, email the editor, check the submission date, and go for it.
That's right.
And as usual, let's tell our listeners and viewers how they can access In Touch magazine.
So there are two ways. The first one on the AUSIT website. If you are a member, you log in and you go on the In Touch section. There is a specific section dedicated, so a link that takes you directly to all the issues there, and you'll see it's always marked the latest. It's marked there. So that's one way. The other way is the ISSUU platform. It's probably pronounced ISSU. Yes. I'm not sure. I'm never sure about that. But yes, it's the ISSU platform. And I prefer either. But what I really like about the this platform is that you can I can read it like in a flip book. So just go page by page electronically, and also, of course, all the links can be accessed easily. It can also be read in a blog format, also as a PDF. So there are, and also you can print it. I have a print version right here on my desk. So I think every preference is catered for. So people can read in all those ways. So on the AUSIT website and on the ISSU platform.
Wonderful. Looking forward to that. And it's just another great incentive to become an AUSIT member. That you get within your membership, access to this wonderful magazine. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It is just there when you become a member. And indeed, with the ISSU digital publishing app, I find it very, very fun to read the magazine in that. I really like just flicking like it's a physical magazine. And the best thing about it is all the hyperlinks work. It's so good.
They do, yes.
Indeed. Look, again, congratulations and thank you to the entire editorial committee for putting out another wonderful In Touch magazine. We can't wait to talk about the next one. So that's going to be the literary translation part 2. And I'm very, very curious already to see what'll be in there. Today I was with Cristina Savin, who is on the In Touch editorial committee, and we had a little bit of a chat about what was in this summer issue of the AUSIT In Touch magazine. Cristina, thank you so much for joining me today, and I loved our chat. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And my wonderful listeners and viewers, we're coming to the end of the year. A very happy holiday season to all of you. Merry Christmas to all of you that celebrate it, and Happy New Year. Wishing you all a wonderful 2023. I think there's going to be a lot of wonderful things ahead for all of us. And we hope to see you in the new year. Don't forget to subscribe and watch this space for more podcasts, lectures, and webinars. And we'll see you in the new year. Thank you very much.
Conversations Podcast.